Good morning, everybody. All right, let's see. What are we doing today? We're going to do stuff to do with rule resolution. That's the topic for today. But before then, let's have a quick recap of where we got to. Because I didn't do a stream yesterday. Just hacked away at stuff whilst doing a bit of researching and some other things went on. I planned to do a stream yesterday, but I had problems with computers and you don't want to know. You don't want to know. Nightmare it was. Anyway, let's have a look-see. Right. So, yeah. Let's bring up the test. What changed? We added support for like test points and fiducials and do not place and things like that. So the idea is that when you've got a pick and place machine and you've got an EDA design, some things in your EDA design, you still want it to be able to look at on the circuit board when the circuit board is in the pick and place machine, but there's not necessarily anything to put on the circuit board. So fiducials are one such thing. Test points are another such thing. Do not place items are another thing, because you want to know where the parts are that you're not supposed to place, so that when you finish placing everything and then you look at your circuit board and you see there's a part that's missing, you can go, oh, don't worry, it's one of the parts that wasn't supposed to be placed. And you can jog the head over and look down through the machine's camera to see the circuit board to see that. So you need to be able to say, there is something, here's where it should be, but don't worry about it. So we did that. Right. So we've got that. So the idea is that in the placements file, let me find it. Yeah, we define a couple of test points. So this is what they look like at the moment. Obviously, they're all going to have like coordinates and a side and all this kind of thing, which we'll probably add fairly soon, I think. But they basically don't have a name and a value for like test points. And then, if you remember the other day, we were also writing a CSV file with sort of like the results of all this stuff at the end of it, this mapping process. We have an expectation of what the CSV file should look like, which is this. There we are. And you can see that the test points are in there, and there's now a place column which has a false on them. Now, interestingly, we still have the situation that we were talking about last week, I think it was, when we were thinking about doing text user interfaces, where we've got situations where there are unresolved mappings, and no mappings, and conflicting mappings, right? And these items with those now appear in the CSV file. They didn't the other day, because we only wrote them to the CSV file if there was a corresponding part. But a test point is never going to have a part, but it still needs to be in the file. It still needs to be in the results. So what we need to do somehow is to have some way of resolving issues like this or this, where there are two matching parts and you need to pick one of them in order to proceed. And if you remember the other day, we had this little sort of UI mock-up thing. Let me just make this a little bit bigger if I can. Can we do it? Yeah, this thing. There we go. And the idea was that you show a list of parts and then the things that you could pick, and then you could confirm something. We were talking about this idea of being able to confirm something. And we were going to build it into the user interface, but then we decided that we're not going to build a user interface yet because there's too many decisions that need to be made, and we don't know enough about all the various different technologies that we want to use. So we're not going to do a user interface yet, but we still need this concept of resolution. So that brings us nicely onto what we're going to try and do something about today, which is resolution rules or something like that. So for instance, if you've got this and you've said, okay, I want it to be I want it to be this resistor, you know, the second one in the list. Let me see if I can just bring that up in an editor. Text UI design, this one. And bring it in. Lip chat? Why is it? No, no Microsoft. Open it in Paint. There we go. Print. No. No. What's it doing? Oh, that says print, not paint. Open with Paint. There we go. Computers. Okay. So say as a user, you're like, I want this one. Right? And if we had a text user interface, that would then retain some state inside this user interface to say that this is the one the user picked. And then if they selected C1 and went through the process for C1, then some more state would be retained. And then if they went back to R1 and then tried to redisplay what's on the screen, it should show you sort of like the state is now confirmed and which one is selected. So there's this concept of the state, basically. And that's the bits of data that state is going to have is probably like the refdes. Let's think about this for a moment. It's probably going to be the refdes, right? And the part, which is these two things, the manufacturer and the part number. Right, so you've got a refdes to part. And it's sort of like confirmation rule. I don't know. Can't think of a good name for it, but rule seems abstract enough that we could possibly extend it later. I don't know. So we're going to go with that. So imagine back in the CLI land now. Imagine that we've got this and it's written this CSV file, and then we go, oh, there's a mapping error, right? One of the things that a user could do is go, okay, I'm going to disable one of those mappings or delete one of those mappings because it's wrong or bad, right? And then they could run the tool again and that resolves it. But in the case where all the mappings are completely and utterly valid, we need to have some way of saying, use this one for this situation. So yeah, so how do we do that? So my first thought, because, you know, we're using CSV files for everything else currently, is to have a CSV file that contains a refdes and a manufacturer part code and a part. And then when we're trying to resolve rules, resolve mappings, we look at this and then apply a found in confirmations or found in rules or something like this rule, right? As opposed to the other rules. Let's just remind ourselves what the other rules were for a moment. We're gonna have. Where were the rules? The rules. Part mapper. Part mapping is where we've got some rules, wasn't it? Applied rule, applied mapping rule. Here we go. So these are the rules that we've got at the moment. These two, which is auto-selected and found in loadout. So I'm thinking that we extend this to say something else that I haven't got a good name for yet. I don't know. Something like, I don't know, found in user rules, build rules. Build rules, probably fine, because you're trying to build rules. Found in assembly variant rules. Something like that. Anyway, we don't have to come up with a final name for it now. But if anyone's got any suggestions, stick them in the comments or type it in the chat. Hello, everybody that's in the stream at the moment. Say hi in the chat if you fancy it. All right, so let's try that then. So let's go back to the test and say what we want to happen. Well, What do we want to happen? Should we add another yet another? This test is getting very large. It's getting very large, but it's a very important test. Yeah. I'm feeling that we should probably, because otherwise we won't have any. Yeah, we should probably. Let me finish my thought. Add another resistor or diode or something. Let's do a diode today. Woohoo! Where there are two. No, I suppose if we added another resistor, then there's a bit. No, but the information is used by. Keeping the things in the test separate from each other can be important for maintainability of your tests. I was thinking about adding another resistor which used one of the existing mappings, but then I'm like, no, because then it's not clear that those mappings are only used for that thing. Because at the moment, these two mappings are only used for this one, and these two are only used for this one, and these two are only used for this one. So let's follow this pattern. So let's just say we'll use diodes though. I'm going to use diodes today. It's going to be exciting. We're going to have D1, and it's going to be S. I don't know what kind of diode we're going. We need to know the patterns for the diodes really. I suppose we can have a diode. Let's have a diode 0603. Diode 0603. Why not? What's it going to be? Let's say 1 amp at 50% duty. I don't know. Something like this. You know, then you get 500 milliamps through it. That kind of thing. I don't really care about it, to be honest. Delete. Goodbye. 1 amp. That'll do. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Okay, so we're going to go DO for 1. DO1. DO2. Right. Great. So now we need these two parts to be defined, and we also need the placement for this, right? Let's do that. Capacitors. Let's do it after. We have to do it after the resistors. So we've got that one, and then it's going to be diode 1, DO 0603, 1 amp. Should probably specify the voltage. Let's go 10 volt. Just to make it a bit more real worldy, right? Right, so now we need to add the parts. So we'll do that. These were the parts. So DO1. No, DO. Mirror for 1. DO1. That should have been there, but never mind. Everything's fine. Manufacture 2, diode 2. All well and good so far. Yeah, then we need a part mapping record. And we need to say when you see DO 0603 with 1 amp and 10 volts, then you get DO manufacturer 1's diode. And also 2 more mappings for the diode. And also another one for manufacturer 2, diode 2, right? Seems reasonable, right? So that then is going to cause us to load more things. So let's have a look at the tests down here for a moment. Oh, and we're going to need to add it to the list of things that we place. There we go. Okay, so there's now going to be 9 placements that it loads. It's going to load up 2 more parts. Oops, daisy. 2 more parts. 2 more part mappings. The refdes list is going to contain D1. And it should match 2 more placements for the assembly variant. And then we make the same change down here because I still haven't dealt with this yet. At some point we're going to deal with this. Okay, yeah. Oh, this was the fun I had yesterday. We'll go into that at some point. Right. Let's run it and see what happens. Right. What does it say? So it says diode 1, unresolved mapping, no rules applied. We're going to change that in a bit. But why did the test fail? It said matched 9 placements, but actually what happened was 8 placements. 8 placements is probably right because we added 1. Yeah. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8's right. I was wrong. Yeah, that should be 8. Okay. What's it say now? It says, right. So now we've got to update the CSV file because that's going to be included in here. Was it after? I had a nightmare with this diff stuff yesterday. Is this saying line 4? Reading this is not particularly easy. Like, where would this be added? What order did we do the placements in? Let's look at the placements list. So it should be between R4 and C1. It's when it shows the diff, it's not showing a line above and a line below so that you can see where the stuff should be. That's what's there's no context. So it should be this one, right? And this will probably pass now. Yeah, right? But this isn't what we want. Because what we said is that we want to pick, say, this one. Let's just say user selected or user rule found in what matched. Yeah, matched user rule. Let's do that. Therefore, there is not an error. Okay, this is good. So now that means we want diode manufacturer 2, diode 2. Diode manufacturer 2, diode 2. Right, and now we have a failing test. Now what? Yeah, all right. Let's see what we can do here. What can we do? Well, probably like all the other things, we can add a new argument that says load some rules up from here. So let's do that. These rules are going to look very similar to the parts. Oh, actually, no. They look the same as the loadout record by the look of it. Yeah, okay, it's fine. So we're going to steal this. Yoink. I think I feel like putting this like here. Because all the other stuff happens first, and then the user does some rules, and then they run it again, and then it gives you some output. So we're going to comment all this lot out, because that was a lot. And we're going to do some renaming. So instead of loadouts, we're going to have user rules, I suppose. User rules? User? Is it the user? Assembly rules? I think perhaps assembly rules might be better. Let's have a look. Yeah. Because I could do it, right? And then my buddy could be doing it as well. And if it says user, then it might think it's my rules. But really, it's like whoever is in charge of doing the job, sort of like, you know, it's the rules. And it might be a combination of like more than one person. And they're trying to work together to assemble something. Assembly rule. It's probably better. Let's go assembly rule. Because, you know, we're trying to create an assembly variant, right? So let's do that. Loadout. So let's search for loadout in here. And change that with assembly rule. Yeah, like so. So we need this arg. Fine. But it's not loadout. It's going to be assembly rules. Yeah. I'm not sure quite why it's got this here, but I thought I got that. Right. Which means that we need the path. Fine. And it needs to have an appropriate name on it, which it does, which is good. And then we're going to write some stuff with a writer in the same format as all the other ones. And then we're going to write some stuff to it. We're just going to write one thing to it. And instead of using a loadout record, we're going to write a assembly rule record. So what's it going to be? It's going to have ref des, and it's going to have D1, and it's going to say that D1 is going to use diode 1, no, diode 2, no, diode manufacturer. That's it. We'll get this right, honestly. Diode manufacturer 2. No. There we go. That's the what I want. Diode 2. Yes, that's what we want. Right. So now we need to create one of these. Fine. Let's search for that load out record. Here it is. And we're gonna. Oh dear. I pressed the wrong keyboard shortcut there, and it did a thread dump. What did I press there? I don't even know what that is. Fine. Assembly rule record, and this is going to have the ref des and the manufacturer and a partner. There you go. Okay. And then we've got this argument, and we need to add it to the list of args now. There's a lot of arguments for this. Obviously, if you had a GUI, you wouldn't have to remember all this stuff. And there are ways of running a command with lots of arguments in a nice way, which is called a script. So you just write all your arguments in the script once, and away you go. Right. Right, we're trying to add the argument, aren't we? Yeah, so yes. Assembly rule arg. Assembly rule arg with assembly rules. What did we do for the other one? We did load out. We've got parts, plural. Yeah, this loadout one is a bit of the odd one out, isn't it? Because really it's sort of like loadout items with the plural. Let's say assembly rules arg. And then add it. Why not? Right. That's going to cause things to fail because we don't know anything about this argument yet. And it's also going to cause our other test to break, which is going to be this test. And we basically want something that's like this. And we're going to put it somewhere. I don't know where exactly it's going to be. I'm going to put it just above the output for now. For those that have been following along, this looks a little bit different because once I added this argument, it line wrapped it and put all the descriptions on the line below, which was interesting. So not output. This is going to be assembly rules. And we still haven't done the whole fix the file to source thing yet either. You know, at some point we'll get to that. Right. So now we should have 2 failing tests. Let's go. Yep. Right, and it's going to go doesn't match. Yeah, doesn't match. That's kind of what we want. Okay, so now we can go back to the production code, find the build command and add another argument. And I said we were going to add it above output, so we're going to do that. And assembly rules, oops, file. There's a problem here. It's optional. Because the first time you run it, you might not have any rules defined. And then you go, oh, I need some rules. And then you create the rules, and then you run it again with the argument. So it needs to be optional. So we need to think about that. So I suppose that's probably still okay. Okay, we'll crack on with that. And if we've got this, yeah. Loadout was optional. So we've already got sort of like precedent for doing this kind of thing. Yeah, okay, so now let's run it. And then it's going to complain that it doesn't have some of the things. Assembly rules. And then we're going to have to pass that over to here. Okay. And that means that okay. You have to do it in a slightly different order because I mean you don't have to. Because I can add this here, and then what I can do, I don't know if anyone has seen this before, but you can go refactor, change signature. And this is such a handy refactoring. I don't know whether anybody's seen this before or not. But if you've got a method and it's called like throughout your entire code base, right, and you just want to reorder a couple of arguments in it, like destination source instead of source destination, something like that. Normally destination argument should be last, but there you go. C has it the way around. It's good. Anyway, you can take your thing and you can move it up to where you want it, and then you go refactor, and it's magically done it. And then if you look at the implementation and all any test methods that might have also been using this thing, you would see that they would have changed as well. It's really handy. Really handy. Righto. So let's build that again. Right. So we've got this and it's unused. So now we need to do something with it. And it also seems that this should be passing at this point. So let's have a look and see what's different. So we've got our... This is what it did. Yeah, I'm struggling to read these. Is it just things are in a different order? Let's have a quick look. So what is actually output is this, and then our test says we expect this. So let's have a look. So we've got assembly rules came after refdes list. Oh. Yeah, this placements thing should be sort of higher up in this. Why is it? Oh, did I? Did I copy and paste something there? Yeah, I did. Oh, I'm not sure how that happened. I think I must have copied two things. Yeah, so refdes list, assembly rules. And then we've got output. Oh, I pasted it in and changed the wrong one. That's what happened. Yeah, look. I changed the wrong one. Let's fix this mess. Oopsie daisy. Okay, and now only that. Okay, fine. So this should be okay now, right? Yes, good. Right, and now it goes, well, you know, I haven't done anything with it. So now we need to make it happen. Let's go. So we've got these assembly rules, and it's the part mapper's job to map parts and apply rules and then return an error. So I guess we're going to need to pass this optional assembly rules thing over to the part mapper in the same way that we pass like the loadout items and all this kind of stuff, right? But we don't want to pass that to it. We want to load things first and then pass the loaded things to it. So let's load them first. So we've got this loaded blah 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 loadout item. Fine. So let's go back to our test and add another line that says loaded after here somewhere. Loaded one assembly rule. Yes, I died again just then. Did you see it? I died. Yes, I know. There are ways of doing this, but it's not today. Right. So that should make that test fail earlier now, because now it's gonna fail on that before it matches the tree. So we've got to do this thing, load out items, optionally load them if there's a source, right? So it's basically the same as this. So we're gonna, oh, here we can have, oh dear, that's not right. Okay. Yeah. Right. This thing up here needs to be called source. Okay. So now we need a loader, load assembly rules, which is going to look like that loadout. So we've got our loaders over here. And we need to create this module, I suppose. So let's do that. Pub mod assembly rules. Okay. Then we can not import it because because I haven't created it. That would help. Then we can import it, right? And then we can create the method. But I'm not going to create the method using the alt enter thing because I'm going to go to this one and steal it. Yoink. Paste. And then we're going to comment everything out. And we're not dealing with loadout items, no. We call the method load. Right, so now we've got this loadout thing. It's going to be very, very similar. And this is going to be assembly rule. A bit of duplication is okay. As long as your duplication is consistent, it's easy to apply the same change everywhere. But ideally, you should try and remove some of the duplication if it makes sense to do so. At some point, when we've created more of this stuff, we can come back and do some refactoring. But the danger with refactoring too early is that you haven't built up enough of a picture of what needs to be refactored. So when everything is working and there's nothing else to add, that's a good time to do some refactoring, some of the larger refactorings. Not too early. So we're still in the not too early phase right now. But at some point, it will be good to come back and look at this. So we've got this loadout item and loadout item record. So now I guess we need assembly rule, an assembly rule record, right? And then we've got this item thing, which don't need. Right. So let's uncomment some of this and see what we can get. So we're trying to return some items, which probably should be called rules or assembly rules. No. IDE, no. which means we need to have some. And then in order to add some, we need to iterate over a CSV reader's things. So we need a CSV reader, which is built from a path, which is built from a path buffer. Seems fine. And now we've got this problem with the assembly rule not existing. Let's look at loadout for a moment and locate that. So assembly rule. We've got this assembly. We've got a mod here, and then we've got PnP. And it's not really something that you put on the machine because it's a rule, right? It's used as part of the part mapping process. So I don't think it belongs in the PnP mod along with loadout item. The loadout item definitely does because that's a pick and place machine specific concept. I think it belongs in here. Honestly, I don't think there's much value in this new thing at the moment, but there we are. So we're going to copy this, and we're just going to let's create a I don't know. Not entirely sure where to put it right now. Because perhaps this processing stuff should be put in its own module called processing. So I'm feeling like I should create a pub mod rules. Yeah. Guess there could be more than one, right? And then create that. And then put this thing in here and call it assembly rule. And it needs to have the ref des, the manufacturer and the part number. That's one type of rule. It's the only type of rule at the moment, so we're not going to go down the whole enum route or anything like that right now. Probably sufficient. Okay, so let's go back to the loader, which was this, right? Now we should be able to import that. Great. So we can at least return something. Now we need to try and get a record from the CSV file. So we need an assembly rule record. And that should probably just be in here. Got this because we've got all the other records here, right? And we've got this build thing and all this stuff. So we'll start with that. Assembly rule record, and it's going to have the ref des, the manufacturer and the part number. Everything's fine. Right, great. So now we can print it. And now what we need to do is go from a CSV record into one of the actual assembly rules. So we need this method. But we don't have it. Now we do. And it's going to return an assembly rule. Okay, and it could work or it could not. So if it works, then you add it to the list. If it doesn't, you bail. Same pattern as the other ones. Fine. So we've got our load thing. We're going to put the instrument thing back on here as well. All right. So we need to do this. This one's going to be fairly simple. It's basically going to be the same as this. We can use the. We don't need to copy and paste this. We can go assembly rule, add the missing fields, and then go self.refdes.clone. self.manufacture.clone. Self.manufacture part number. Oops, there's .clone. Okay, fine. But we said it could fail. Currently, there's no reason that it could fail. So this should be a result of something. Now it should be okay, right? Because that's the same pattern we had before. All right. All righty. So yeah, so we can do it. So now we can load stuff. So our test should get a little bit further now. It should say that it loads one of these things, I reckon. Let's find out. Let's have a look. Somewhere around here. Loaded things, loaded stuff, loaded parts, part mappings, loaded items. Oh. Copy and paste fail. Whoops. But, you know, I checked it before I committed it, so everything's fine. Yeah. Oops. See, I didn't do that. If I did that, we might have been all right. Assembly rules. Is that what we said we wanted in the test? Let's have a look at the test real quick. This. No. That's what we said we wanted. I see where it failed. Okay, good. So it must be correct because it's failing further on in the test. Ta-da! Look at that. Loads rules. Amazing. Right. But it doesn't do anything with them because we haven't given them to the... We haven't given the assembly rules to anything. So let's do that. Let's give it to the part mapper. Right, we give it a reference to the things. Great. And then we're going to need that. That will have broken some tests. Right? Because there's tests. There's one where we actually use it, and then there's some tests here. So these are going to be a little bit confused because they don't have the extra argument yet. That chain signature refactoring thing has an option to put a default in for things that aren't there. But when I used the alt enter thing there in the IDE to add the extra argument, it didn't prompt with that dialog to say what the default should be. Because really there should be a reference to a vector of an empty list, right? Like this. And for some reason, it also didn't name the thing properly. Probably because I didn't look at it. Assembly rules. There we go. So we've got that one. And we need to look at... Can you open this in the... Yes. Right. So we did this one now. Didn't do this one though. Right, so we do this one. Did that go in there? Yeah. Okay. That should keep all the existing tests happy. This lot. And we get the warning telling us we've been very, very naughty that we're not using our assembly rules that we've just passed over. So let's make it happy. So let's do a unit test. So if we go to our find window and we've got these tests. So we've got map parts with multiple matching mappings, which is the situation that we're in. And then we want to use one of the rules or a rule to fix this situation. So if we start with a copy of this test, like so. And say map parts with multiple matching mappings with an assembly rule. An assembly. Yeah. Why is it? An assembly. Typo Winwood. Keep up. Look, it's not caught up. Assembly. Come on, IDE. What's wrong with that? That's really broken, isn't it? Look. Type in word assemble. Type in word assembly. Neither of those two things appear on my screen right now. Look. Anyway, moving on. So the test is basically exactly the same as the other one, except that our expectation is going to be different and our assembly rules is going to be different. So if we say if we extract this to extract a variable, this occurrence, and we call it assembly rules, and then move that up here, and then we create a rule and say, now really we sort of need two rules, one that matches and one that doesn't. So we'll do that. And we're gonna make it that the second one is the one that should match, so that it has to get to the second one by iteration, ideally via iteration. I mean, it could go dot last on there, couldn't it? You know, on the vector. But, you know, there's like making it robust and accounting for stupidity. Where do you want to go? Okay, so let's create these things. So let us, okay. I don't want to type that. Let assembly rule 1 is assembly rule. And this is what I was saying. I don't really think there's much value in those new methods because I think it's clearer to just go like this rather than to pass them as arguments like this, because you could get these transposed and you wouldn't know that you put the name in the value and the value in the name very easily. Whereas like this, you can't get it wrong. So the ref des that we're interested in is going to be R1. And we're going to say that you should use well, we need to create our dummy rule, don't we? Let's have 3 parts. Manufacture 3, part 3. And we're going to say C1, because we need our dummy rule that gets in the way, maps to manufacturer 3, part 3, right? And then we need our second rule, which is the one that we want to actually have applied. And that's going to be called rule 2, which is going to match R1 to manufacturer 2, part 2. Right? Oh, I probably should have done this bit first. And then what we're going to say here is that everything was totally fine. And we applied a rule which was applied mapping rule assembly. I'm just going to call it assembly rule. We might want to put the assembly rule inside that enum. I don't know yet. But that's what we're going to say that we want. Right, but we haven't got this yet. And now we do. What happened there? Oh no, it's fine. Fine. So we go back. Why is it complaining? Oh yeah, this needs to be, it needs to be some rule. Yeah, fine. And instead of it being okay with a bunch of things like that, it needs to just be okay. Right? Yeah, something like that. Oh, part 3. Don't need part mappings. This is just there to get in the way. Okay, let's run it. Bam. Non-exhaustive pattern. Right, good. And this is where Rust enums come into their own. So enums in other languages, they don't say, what? You used an enum and you didn't check all the different variants. Oh, never mind. C. No. So we need to say that when we're trying to display an applied mapping rule, if you see an assembly rule, we need to write out something. And we said what we're going to write out in our other test, which was somewhere up here, matched assembly rule. I've not got any details of which rule it was. To be honest, looking at the data, I think we would just be repeating ourselves because you've got a ref des and a manufacturer and a part number, and they're already sort of there. You already know, I think. But anyway, we'll find out. Use variable assembly rules. Right, so we're still not doing anything with these rules, so we expect that test to fail. It's good. So we didn't say that. It said I'm not sure if our test is right here. Hold on a second. Part mapper. No, this is not right. We expect it to be okay, don't we? So we expect the overall result to be okay because there's only one thing to do, and that there is a single part mapping result which could be mapped to 2 parts, one of which was mapped, which was found in the list of rules. Okay, now let's have a look. That looks better. So this is what we got, and this is what we wanted. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's make it happen. So process. Let's process. So apply rules. Apply rules takes the loadout items. So probably this is where we need to pass over the assembly rules. So let's do that. here. Boink. And fix that by pressing Alt-Enter, because that's how you program. Just press Alt-Enter all day long. Alt-Enter. Yes, that'll do. Assembly rules. Right, so now we've got assembly rules here. So if there's two, we can look in loadout items, and if we find it in the loadout items, then we could use it. But we already know the rules are more important than the loadout. So we need to do it first. But the process of searching for something is the same. So let's copy paste comment. Maybe assembly rule. Right, so we have to iterate over the rules to find something that matches. Let's call this one rule. Right. And we need a reference to that. We've got to return something. We've got to return true if it is supposed to be applied. And the way that we decide whether it's supposed to be applied is by looking at the refdes. So let's check the mapping result. Yeah. I knew it was going to get unstuck here. We don't have the refdes. This is a problem, Houston. We need the placement here. So let's look at this apply rules thing. We've got the EDA placement here. Let's pass over a reference to the EDA placements refdes. But we'll do it on the end. And then, oh yeah, I suppose I should do it this way. And then we're going to refactor this and change the signature. And I think this, we're going to move it to be the first thing. And we're going to rename it to refdes. There we go. So now we've got refdes first, and now we can look at the refdes. So refdes equals rule dot refdes, right? Seems reasonable. Is it? I think it's this, because this is a string, isn't it? Let me just compile this and see. Yeah, no, that was right. So now we've got this maybe assembly rule, and if we match the refdes, then great, we found the rule. So then we go, okay, well, if we found the rule, then let's apply it. Then if we found an assembly rule, let's apply the mapping rule, which we did before, something like this. But let's just do this. So if we go, if let some rule, yeah, equals maybe assembly rule, then do this. Mapping result dot applied rule is some applied mapping rule assembly rule. Okay. Now there's no point in doing any of this anymore. Return or just continue. because we're inside the loop here. Yeah, you know, mapped part. Oh, we don't use it. Yeah, because in the previous thing we were trying to find a ref des, but in this one we're trying to look at the actual details. But this one is just something different. Okay, fine. Back test should pass now, right? Pass or fail. Pass or fail. Hey, Fritz Bender. Sorry, I just seen your message now. I'm a bit slow. I'm sorry looking at the chats. Very focused on the code. Yeah, it's going good. The code is already somewhere public. It's on GitHub. You can find it. No, not there. Let's try again. You can find it on the MakerPnP GitHub. Here, github.com/MakerPnP. Easy. All right, back to this. Let's see if it works. Punk. Let me just quickly grab this URL and stick it in the chat. There you go. Right. Where we go? So it didn't pass. Is it because there are multiple matching rules first? Am I doing that right? I've got second thoughts now. There are other issues that are going to happen. Yeah, we haven't got a test for it yet, but I can see what the problem is. What a future problem will be is that if you've got an assembly rule and you apply the rule to it, and then you stop looking, but there's more part mappings, and then one of those is found in the loadout, then multiple rules will have been applied. So this rule sort of like trumps other rules. It's like stop processing other rules kind of thing. The definition of rules and all this kind of thing probably should be refactored to see, try this, can continue and all this kind of stuff, right? But right now, we don't have that. Concept of a rule for this stuff. Could probably, yeah, there's definitely ways that could all be refactored. Anyway, let's deal with the problem at hand. So what happened? We got an error because there were mapping errors, and it said conflicting rules. Yeah. Yeah, we don't do anything with this either, so we can put that there. Okay, that got rid of the warning. So we need to stop processing rules. But currently we're in this for loop. I could create a thing outside it that says bool stop processing stop rule application. But this is not that language. This is this language, isn't it? False. And then we could say if stop whatever, then continue, right? And then down here we could say it's true, which requires this to be muttable. You know, there's probably another way you can do it without using a for loop and all this kind of thing right now. And yeah, no. Okay, so we've got two okays now, so this is good. But there's a slight difference somewhere. So what we had was an okay where the first part was mapped to a rule. Oh, yeah. Because we're not using anything else on our rule yet, are we? Duh. So we need to do this, but we need to do more things, such as checking the current mapping. Yeah, okay, right, fine. Such as checking stuff on this, I believe, and map part dot manufacture is the same as the rules manufacturer, and the mapped part manufacturer part number is the same as the rules manufacturer part. Maybe that fixes it. No. Okay, what am I missing? What am I missing? So we didn't apply a rule to that first one, which is good. Did we apply a rule to the second one? Yeah, we must have done because we've got an okay. Applied rule, some assembly rule. I might be looking at the wrong thing here. Hold on. Let me think about this. Let me look at the mapping result dot. Yeah, no, not that. Wait. Am I doing this in the wrong place and completely in the wrong place? There's issues where it might not work as well. Okay. Is it time to break out the debugger? Because are they both? Is my test setup wrong? Are they both mapping to the same part? That's probably what I've got. Yes. Right, they do. So and that, yeah, okay, my test setup is wrong here. So Okay, yes. Right. So let's have a quick look at this. So we've got name and value, which is supposed to go to this second part. Yeah, that looks right, though. No, my test setup is okay here. Because this one goes to the first part, and this one goes to the second part, right? This one. So it applied the rule. Oh, I think, yeah, okay, I see what the problem is. We're missing this here. It's just this. It's fine. It was working, but I'd forgot to say that they're supposed to be apart. Yes. Yes. So the part is supposed to map to this one because that's what we said. Oh, okay. And that part is this part, which is in here, parts. So this needs to be a reference to the second one in the list. Perhaps. There. That should fix it now. Yeah, there we go. Happy days. So it's just my test expectation was wrong. This is the problem with copying and pasting. Sometimes you miss something obvious. I probably should have commented out the expected results and then added it back in line by line. Yeah. Okay, well, you live and you learn. We'll try and remember that for the future. Okay, so does the functional test work? Does the integration test work? Let's have a look. It might, right? It might. What? Look, there we go. Look, check it out. So D1, just assembly rules. So we've got assembly rules. Yeah, the crowd goes wild. Amazing. Okay, and look, we didn't have to build a user interface yet. But if we did, the user interface would, let's just go back to that. The user interface would create this state as a rule and then rerun the processor again, and then it would be fine. Great. Okay, let's do a commit. Let's check for unversion files because we missed one the other day. No, nothing there. Good. What did we do? We did stuff. Stuff and things. Stuff and things. No. Bad developer. Write a good commit message. Always. Don't be lazy. Right. So what did we do? We said that we want to... Yeah. We added support for assembly rules. Use rules to resolve mapping mapping errors. Now, there's more. Well, let's just deal with this one for now. Okay, so in order to do that, we added a diode, right? We say that the diode gets mapped and placed, and we passed the list and changed the assembly variant and updated a bunch of counters, added a checking for a message, and wrote some assembly rules to a CSV file and added small part mapping records, added 2 more parts for a diode, and added a placement. Yeah, that all looks fine. Good. Then we updated the implementation so that it could process the argument and then pass the argument to the build assembly variant thingamajigamy, which used the CSV loader to load assembly rules and pass the loaded rules to the part mapper. Let's look at the loader. And then we've got this. Yeah. Which, and then in doing that, we needed some CSV things. Needed assembly rules and records. Yeah. So we needed assembly rules and a mod. Fine. And then we updated the part mapper to use assembly rules and stop rule processing when the first rule matches. Now we've got a bit of a problem, don't we? Do we? Do we? I mean, this seems fine. But how can it go wrong? Yeah. How can it go wrong? Let's think about that for a moment. Let's go back to this part mapper. How can it go wrong? How can it go wrong? If you've got a rule that's been applied, maybe it's okay. Perhaps we need another test case to prove that it's okay. So we've got test cases that say, you know, if you find it in a feeder, then use it. Multiple matching mappings, no parts with mappings, one in the loadout. What happens if you've got things in the loadout and a rule? So we are going to be, yeah, let's look at our integration test for a moment. Let's, because we've got this situation to resolve here, right? So the user sees this and goes, okay. For R3, I want to use this one, right? But during the processing of rules, it's going to go, okay, well, you know you've got R3 and it's we found it in a loadout. It would apply that rule to it, right? First. And then it would come to the second one. And then we said we process assembly rules before feeder rules. That doesn't fix the problem because we've still got a rule applied here and we've got a different rule applied here, right? Which would be one of these rules. And then the overall result of this is that it will be conflicting rules. So perhaps we need to do 2 passes. One pass that goes, well, these assembly rules trump all the other rules that you could ever apply. Be one way of doing it. Another way of doing it would be after you've applied all the rules, you remove the other rules if one of them is the matched rule. I don't know which one might be best. Either way, you've got to iterate over the list of things twice because you got to look for other rules at the end of it and then handle it. But do you want to unapply the other rule? Should you even apply the other rule? I don't know. I think you should probably do my first thought is that you should do 2 passes. One where you just look to see if anything matches the rule, and then if it doesn't, try and find a different rule that applies. I think that's probably what should happen. Okay. Let us add a unit test for this. Let us add a unit test. So map parts with multiple matching mappings in loadout. Okay. Yeah, let's have a new test with an assembly rule. So we're going to have our assembly rule again. And it's still complaining about this. Let me close everything, open it up. Why? Who knows? All right, so we're going to start with this one again. And yes. Right. Now, this time, we don't need this one. We just need one rule. So we'll do that to start with. Right. But what we need to say is that when one of the parts is found in a feeder, it should not apply that rule, as this should be none here. Right? So we need a loadout, which is this. Let's grab this, and we're going to come back to it and yeah, and paste that in here. And then we're going to give the loadout items to this. But I think it's a reference. Yeah. Right. So then we need to make all this sort of happy. We only need one of them. We're going to say, I don't know what we're going to say right now. We just need one loadout item that should be ignored. We don't need the third part. We still want a resistor space. So when we got resistor 1 with name and value of 1, we've got 2 part mappings which go to 2 different parts. Part 1 and part 2, part 1 and part 2. That's good so far. Right. Then we've got one of these parts. The first one should be in a feeder. Right. And then we've got an assembly rule which says, no, don't use the one that's in the feeder. Use the other one instead. Manufacturer 2, part 2. Okay. So expected results is supposed to be okay, and it maps it to the second part, this one, in the list of parts. And the first part mapping result, which is what you get when you're processing this, should be that there is no rule applied, even though it is in the feeder. Right? I'm thinking of test fragility at the moment. And then the second part mapping result should be the one that's applied, right? But what if I run this now and run it? What we should see is that we have 2 applied rules and an error. That's what I think is going to happen. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we've got an error. And we have found in loadout, you see, and match the assembly rule. And that's not what we want to happen. So now we've got a failing test and we can fix up this. So what this does, it goes apply rules, and apply rules goes whatever. I think, and I was looking at this bit earlier, and it's got this auto selected if there's only one. I don't think that's the case. If there's a rule, it should say it matched the rule. So we might need another test for this. But we're not there yet. So this is where we apply this one. So let's just do this. That'll make it work, right? Hey. All right, but do we like it? No. 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 No, we don't really like it. What happens after this? Return some and then whatever. You know, I think what we should probably do is delete that. Take this out. And go here. And then perhaps something like if whatever return. Perhaps we could shortcut it. I'm not sure yet. We could do that. Should we see if we can get rid of this? Yeah, that works. So you just go no. No more. No more. So you can return even though you're in the middle of a loop. Okay, let's see if all the other tests work. Yeah, happy days. Right, and let's make sure that the integration test works still. Yeah, happy days. Let's see if we can run all the tests here. Yes, we can. Nice. That one. Okay, so we can apply rules. Everything's good. Okay, so let's do a commit. So I guess this is something like use wait, apply assembly rules before any other rule. Right, I think that's what we did. Let's have a look. Well, we go apply rules, and if the rule is an assembly rule, then wait, no. If the rule, where does it do it? Oh yeah, assembly rules. We apply these. I was looking at thinking of the other rules. Yeah. So we iterate over the assembly rules first. Okay, cool. And then we do the other things. And we got rid of some mutable state and all that kind of stuff. So that seems reasonable. Potentially we could sort of like extract this to its own method and then extract this to its own method and butts around with it, but I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to just yet. Okay, and then we added a test for that. Let's have a quick look at the test and make sure there's nothing that we don't need in it. So we've got a placement and parts and stuff that would match, and more stuff that would match, and an assembly rule. And then we have our test expectation. Yeah, no, that looks good. That looks good. I'm happy with that. Apply assembly rules before any other rule. Oh yeah, and stop further rule processing if one matches. Something like that. I mean, it's not stop all rule processing, it's stop processing remaining rules for a given placement. And stop further placement. Yeah, I think that's a bit better. Yeah, okay, let's do it. It's done. We did it. Okay. Let's push. Push, 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 push. It. Push, 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 push. Control Shift K. One of these days I'm going to remember it. Yeah, we've got some to-dos. I know. Don't worry about it. Let's do it. We've not had a little look for a while. Yeah, these are the ones I added yesterday. It's fine. Control-Shift-K. There we go. Push anyway. Off you go. Right. That's pretty good. All right. Yeah. Building stuff. We can see it happen. So yeah, yesterday's video was called "What Next," and it feels like I should say the same thing again today. What next? Because we've done what we set out to do. I think we've done that. Yeah. Yeah. Resolution rules. Yeah, we basically do. We've set out to do what we wanted to do. This is good. Okay, so let's see what we can do next. Let's have a look at the list. So we've got resolution rules. Yeah, let's have a quick talk about this thing that happened yesterday. Yeah, let's have a quick look at this. Because these to-dos, yeah. Oh, I had fun yesterday. It wasn't fun, trust me. I wanted assertions that test whether the CSV output was what we expected. And we had an assertion there and everything was fine. But when the assertion failed, it didn't show you what the difference was, even though you're using the difference predicate. So it's like, well, okay. And this doesn't show you the difference. This doesn't show you the difference. This does, but it's horrible. And this does, and it's horrible in a different way. So at some point, we're going to need to fix this. Because there doesn't seem to be any nice way of doing an assert file content when you use the predicates API directly versus using the assertfs command assert method, which does this same case tree stuff inside its assert methods. There doesn't. I couldn't find anything that allows us to do it easily. To say this should be this, and if it's not, show us the difference. That's all I want to do. But yeah, there's no nice handy macro for it. So there we are. Yeah, so that was one of the things that happened yesterday. All right. Anyway, enough of that. So that's what those to-dos were. If anybody's wondering what they were. So the other day we came up with a bunch of ideas for like some more to-dos and things like this. We've still got all these to-dos in here. Some of these got done. We've done this now though. I'm having sort of dilemmas about sort of like cutting this from here and then moving it up here, and I don't know. If I search for all my to-do things, I'll find it. I'm gonna cut it and say when we did it, which was up here. Or should I? I mean, it's stuff I did on a particular day, but the Git history tells us this. Maybe I should leave the to-dos in the place where we first came up with them. And then the Git history tells them when they're done. But then just go back to them and change them to dones. Yeah, I'll do that. That might be a bit better. Okay, so we're going to change this to say it's done. Let's read it and make sure. Resolve a situation where there are multiple matching parts and either no rules apply or multiple rules could be applied. Yep, we did it. So we had the first half of this was where multiple matching parts. That's the thing we dealt with first. And the other half of this, sorry, no rules apply. Because no rules apply. No, did we do that? Am I right? No, we've just dealt with two cases where multiple rules could be applied. No rules apply. What was I thinking when I wrote that? Let's look at the test. Have a look. Oh, yeah, this was the no rules applied case. Yeah, no, we did do that. We did do it. So there was no rule to say use this because it wasn't in a feeder and it couldn't be auto-selected. And yeah, we did that. No, it's fine. It's fine. We did it. No rules were applied. Or multiples could be applied, and that's one where it was found in 2 feeders. So we did that. Cool. And we ended up doing this. Right, that's what we did. When we did it, we did that. Okay. I'm going to move these things back because I said I'll keep those things where we first came up with them. Back to where we first found them, which was here. Yeah. Another thing I'm doing in this logsec thing. I'm going to make this available to the patrons at some point. Is when I end up getting like weird things and then working out the solutions to them in code, I'm going to take snippets of the things that caused me a problem, and then also what the resolution of that was, which I can then refer back to myself later on. I'm like, I had this problem before, and then I can, try and find it in my logsec thing, right? Because logsec's pretty handy for finding stuff. We've probably got borrow checker here. Look, borrow checker. This is going to have more things attached to it as time progresses, and then if I end up with problems with borrow checking, I can go, oh yeah, okay, fine. So it's kind of handy for remembering what you did. Okay. So yeah, next thing we need to do. That's what we're trying to work out. I've got I'm going to write it down up here. KiCad support. Now we know we want KiCad support. I feel that we've got enough stuff that's useful as a tool, which currently works as a tool for dip trace, and it could probably be made fairly easily at this point to work with KiCad. And I want to know what the main differences are between the two programs, so that we don't go too far down sort of a tool-specific way when we're working out, how this workflow could work for me and hopefully for everybody else that uses KiCad, because I think there's a lot more KiCad users out there than there are dip trace users, because KiCad is free and dip trace, there is a free version, but it's limited. It only lets you use like 300 pins or something like that total. Yeah, so KiCad support. Oh, hi Commander Guy, how's it going? Seen your message. Yeah, it's going good. So KiCad support. So I think probably what we're going to do on the next one is add KiCad support. Yeah. Maybe I'll do a bit more of that this afternoon. But I think right now, it's baking here. I'm going to have a little dip in the pool, get some lunch, and then maybe do another live stream a bit later for KiCad support. Or I might tinker with my new phone that arrived today. For those of you that have been following along in the various Discord things, yeah. Phones. Just don't buy a OnePlus phone. That's what I'm saying there. Not if you want to be able to tell the time. Right. I think we're going to call it there. So, just remember, folks, it's only software. How hard can it be? We'll find out on the next one. See you later. Bye.